Hello everyone, welcome to Black Kids Haven, where we post video explanations with photos as well as video recordings from relatives when possible. First, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. Now for our first story in this video. This story takes us to the state of Illinois. 16-year-old Erin Justice reported to police that her stepfather molested her. After speaking with Erin's mother and learning that Erin supposedly lied about being raped by two boys when she was 8, the cops decided to hold off on charging the stepfather, due to Erin's mother casting doubt on Erin's allegations. The cops obviously didn't know that that's what happens in black families when kids say they were molested. Their entire family will call them liars and treat them like they did something wrong. Those cops likely didn't know that calling a child a liar is the norm in the black community when it comes to pedophilia. So they decided to wait for the results of a rape kit to return. On the day that the results came back proving Erin was telling the truth, the stepfather went to the home while Erin was alone, and killed her. A neighbor heard commotion and quoted Erin saying something like, "Okay, I'll just leave." Sadly, that's not what happened. Erin's mother found a grisly scene that day. She found her baby in the bathtub, where her first thought was to pull her out. After pulling on her arm, she was unable to lift her, so she ran outside to call 911. Erin was beaten, stabbed, forced to swallow medicine. Her wrists were slit, then finally, she was drowned in the bathtub. It took 5 months for cops to have enough evidence to charge the stepfather with murder. He was sentenced to die, but the state of Illinois abolished the death penalty, and he's now serving life in prison. Erin's parents had tried for years to conceive a baby, but couldn't. So they turned to adoption. Erin was less than 1 year old when the couple got her. When Erin was a child, her parents separated and Erin spent every weekend at her father's home. Both of her parents remarried, so Erin had 2 parents and 2 step-parents, but never got to know her biological parents. She was a deeply loved child who participated in sports at her school. So much innocence was stolen, and a set of parents lost a gift they were given that they couldn't create naturally. And now for our next story, taking us to the state of California. 16-year-old Tioni, Theus, was found alongside a freeway in South Los Angeles. Tioni's life was a struggle early on, starting with the loss of her older brother. He was 19 years old, sitting on his porch when he was killed in a drive-by. Then, 3 years later, she discovered her mother's injured body in the middle of a road after the woman was hit by a vehicle that didn't stop to help. Her mother survived the ordeal, but was incapable of raising Tioni, so the child went to live with her grandparents. Sadly, both grandparents fell ill and also became unable to care for her. Tioni ended up with her father in California, but because of her losses and trauma, Tioni acted out. She often told her father that no one loved her, which is very common amongst grieving kids. They somehow have an inner belief that they are the cause of any loss they endure.
Said nobody loved me because her mom, she's the only person who loved me was my mom. I said, that's not true. I love you.
Tioni was last seen by her father when she told him she was meeting a friend to go to a party.
She just left. So I picked her up. She was crying. I kissed her, gave her a hug. I didn't know it was going to be the last kiss. So I feel like something was really wrong that night when she came. I begged her to stay. I said, just stay with me.
Her body was found on the side of the freeway a day later. She was shot in the neck. Her murder remains unsolved despite a reward of $120,000 being offered.
We live in two different worlds. You got the rich people and you got the poor people, or middle class people, and we on the other side. You know, if I was a rich person, they probably would have found the killer by now. Who knows? But I think the Highway Patrol, I talked to him. He's a good detective. He said he's doing everything he can.
Authorities have said she may have been a victim of human trafficking. Now, a grieving father has lost 2 of his kids to senseless murders, and both cases are unsolved.
I can't take it. I don't have no more left in me.
Hopefully the siblings are reunited, but they deserve justice, and their family deserves closure.
The case has definitely gotten our attention, and of course, it's top priority, trying to, finalize this case and get justice for the family. So, the difference is obviously we don't have surveillance cameras like, other types of incidents that may be occurring in other areas. So, of course, we rely a lot on the public, right, to call us and, did you see anything?
If you have heard anything that could solve either case, please speak up. Now to our next story in this video. This is a crime that you cannot make up. I'll give you the backstory before I report the murder. In the state of Connecticut lived 2 biological first cousins, Tammy and Chastity. The husband of Tammy somehow became sexually involved with Chastity, causing a divorce and family tension. But the man already had 2 kids with Tammy, and he adored his babies with all his heart. Basically, he worshipped his kids, so he remained in close contact with Tammy while he was dating her cousin Chastity. It caused Chastity to become obsessively jealous. She would spy on him when he went to pick up the children. She even asked her younger relatives to describe the layout inside of Tammy's house. Chastity wanted to marry the man and move to a different state to start a life with him. He refused, saying she is Tammy's cousin and he could not do it. He also said that he could not move out of state because his children were too important to him. Chastity grew increasingly resentful of the kids. She viewed them as obstacles and was upset about how much money he gave Tammy for his kids. So Chastity thought of a plan to free her boyfriend from his obligations to his children. She had one of her younger cousins steal the key to Tammy's house, and she made a duplicate of the key. Late one night, wearing a ski mask and accompanied by a teenaged boy, Chastity entered Tammy's home. The startled mother walked into her living room where the teenaged boy pinned her to the floor. He was under the impression that the kids were not there, and that Chastity was only going to vandalize the home. Soon, the kids were heard screaming and the little boy was heard asking something before going silent. When the teenager realized Chastity was harming the children, he released Tammy from the ground. He shouted to Chastity that he was leaving, then he fled the home. Chastity quietly walked out of the home and Tammy locked the door, not knowing the intruder was her cousin. A scene of horror awaited Tammy in her bedroom. Her 2-year-old daughter was standing with blood pouring from her arm. Tammy used a towel to compress the wound. Tammy thought her 7-year-old son was asleep. She turned him over and saw that he was nearly decapitated. A week later, police charged Chastity with the murder of her 7-year-old cousin. It was a shock to Tammy and her entire family. How could you go to such extreme just to have a man's attention? She killed a kid, all because she hated how much his father loved him. The father of Jarrell has to live the rest of his life with guilt. He hates Chastity and he wishes he never started a sexual relationship with her. Chastity was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Tammy had not forgiven Chastity, saying forgiveness is a process. Tammy is correct. This case defies understanding, therefore no forgiveness is owed. The teenaged boy who broke into the home with the murderer was released from prison after serving a few years. Due to his cooperation and life changes, he was pardoned by the state of Connecticut after 24 years.
My name is Alexis Grajales.
Awesome. At this time, you may explain to the board why you believe that you are suitable for an absolute pardon.
Sure. First off, thanks for this opportunity. I don't want to minimize the effects of my actions at the age of 18. I'm very remorseful for those actions. I'm now a father myself, and I'm 42 years old. So being 24 years removed from, foolish adolescent actions, I obviously think differently. I've been in the mortgage industry for many years, almost 2 decades now. And my offense has kept me from being able to secure a license to be able to go further. Nonetheless, and despite that, and despite having a record, I'm a business owner, also a career man and a family man. And I would genuinely appreciate the opportunity to live again and kind of put this behind me.
Morning, board members. I do have a statement and it reads as follows. I have mixed feelings about Mr. Grajales' request for a pardon. His request surprised me, as the possibility that he might request one had never entered my mind. I do understand that when he broke into my house on July 9th, 1998, he never imagined that his accomplice would murder my 7-year-old son and attempt to murder my 2-year-old daughter. Nevertheless, this is what occurred. At the same time, I can't help but conclude that my daughter's life was spared because Mr. Grajales let me go and exited my home after hearing me plead that my children not be hurt. I am also thankful that Mr. Grajales was a cooperating witness and that his accomplice was held accountable for the horrific crimes she committed. 24 years and 6 months have passed since my son, Jarrell, was murdered. I have made strenuous efforts to heal, and the pain has been bearable with the passage of time. My daughter is doing well, but has not escaped the trauma that this ordeal has caused. As a family, we've worked to achieve emotional health by trying to let go of any anger and resentment. I am well aware that Mr. Grajales was very young when he committed this crime, inexperienced and lacking in wisdom and foresight. I hope and pray that he feels remorse in the role he played and that he has lived his life in a way that demonstrates this. Whether he should be pardoned or not, I defer that to the Board of Pardons and Parole. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jesus, and thank the victim for their input, which clearly shows quite a bit of grace in such a horrible circumstance. And we appreciate victims' input, which can sometimes balance, what we're thinking, and input, obviously, from the distinguished state's attorney who joins us today.
I'm not in favor of a pardon today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. Ms. Zaccagnini.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate the victim, as a mother, the victim's ability to really see things clearly and see things for exactly what they are. That he was young and he clearly did not know what he was getting himself into, and was helpful in getting the prosecution of the woman who murdered the child. And I do believe that Mr. Grajales had no idea what was going to happen when he entered that house. However, he had to know it was going to be illegal. Sir, you certainly, you weren't getting paid to be a Boy Scout, right? And to do good work. But I also believe that he has learned from this and has moved on and changed his life around. So I myself am torn, just as the victim is, and the victim didn't oppose or wasn't in favor, which is kind of where I stand, to be honest.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. In my own thinking, Mr. Grajales having accomplished what he's accomplished and the victim not taking a stand, I would not be opposed to having him move further in his life. I think he's trying to do the right thing. And I mean, he was 18, and what we know now about that whole circumstance, which we deal with in our juvenile reconsideration hearings, et cetera, yes. I would not be opposed to having him move forward with his life. Yeah.
And really, why prolong this, continue this, and have the victim come back again?
Absolutely, which is what, right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything further, Ms. Chance? You all set?
No, but I would go on the minority.
I understand. Regarding Alexis Grajales, the chair moves that he be granted a full and absolute pardon. Ms. Zaccanini?
Aye.
Ms. Chance?
Nay.
The chair votes aye in a majority decision. The pardon
Our
is granted.
next case takes us to Palmdale, California. It involves Stevona Campbell, who was sexually abused by multiple men before she was beaten to death. She was only 13 years old and semen was found in her mouth and other parts of her body. She was known to her family as Teeny for her small size at birth. She had attended a large Mother's Day party at her family's apartment in Palmdale. But she darted out of the apartment about 7 p.m., disobeying her mother's orders to stay home, and never returned. People described her as a nice little girl who was full of energy and had a lot of friends. Stevona and her mother had moved to Palmdale from Compton 2 years ago to escape the gangs and crime. Several relatives also moved to Palmdale for the same reason. Homicide detectives say that a farm worker found the teen's body wrapped in a rug in a ditch beside an onion field. Originally, cops charged all of the guys involved, including a few members of one family. The murder charges were dropped against all except one, who was sentenced to life in prison for the murder. The family members have the last name Mason. Stevona was in a relationship with one of the Mason brothers even though he was 6 years older than her. The rug that Stevona was found wrapped inside of was a rug from the Mason family's home. The guy who Stevona was seeing got only a charge of statutory rape. His relatives also got off with lesser charges, but a friend of his was convicted of rape and murder. It is unclear as to why the state decided to prosecute only one person for the murder even though it occurred at the Mason family home. How could a friend of the family go into their home, rape and savagely kill a child, then use their rug to dispose of the body, without them being involved? Obviously, they all took part in it. So that means some savages got away with murder.